All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Letitia Arguello, the Advocacy Coordinator for the Arc of Weld County. A little bit about the Arc of Weld County. We are an advocacy organization focused on protecting the rights of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The Arc of Weld County provides no-fee individual advocacy services, as well as community outreach programs such as educational trainings, systems advocacy, and events. A great example of one of our events is our 10th annual Achieve With Us Film Festival in honor of Intellectual and Developmental Disability Awareness Month, which will be held next Tuesday, March 30th at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Zoom. The film festival consists of short films starring or produced by individuals with IDD. Films vary in their themes. Some are serious, some are touching, some are comedic. All of them are really great. So it's not too late to register for this free event, and we'd love to have you all there. You can register at arcweldcounty.org. With all that being said, I'm excited to introduce you to Marissa and Brian from Autism Home Support Services.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa. I am the Director of Partnerships and Growth for Autism Home Support Services. And thank you so much to the Arc of Weld County for having us and putting this together. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Autism Home Support Services, and then I am going to let our amazing Center Manager, Brian, take the wheel, and he will talk to you more about ABA therapy and what it looks like. And then we are glad to answer any questions you might have as well at the end, or you can also put them in the chat if needed to. So Autism Home Support Services provides in-home and center-based ABA therapy in Weld County. We have a great brand new center, and I have some great pictures to show you in just a little bit. We provide expert care, and our goal is to help people reach their full potential, whatever that may be. And some common things that we work on are things like non-compliance. We can work on sleep, picky eating, aggressive behavior, socialization, transitions, puberty, and potty training. So one of the great things that I love about Autism Home Support Services is we really can work with people all over the autism spectrum and with other neurodiversities as well. So all of our behavior technicians are CPI trained, so they know how to handle kids that are very aggressive, and we also have a lot of experience working with people as well that are higher functioning. And so we just have a great team that helps with the most demanding challenges that children with autism face. So every team will have a BCBA assigned, and then BTs as well that are matched to the child and family. They have a minimum requirement for training, and we actually do 50% more than what they even require. So that includes before they even step foot in the house, that there's some training that is done. And then also there is in-person and on-the-job training as well too. So whether a behavior technician or BT is a little bit newer, or even if they have a ton of experience, they're all trained on every care plan with every family, because we know all care plans can look different. We also have, we find the perfect match. And what that means is we really work with the entire family. And especially if we're in the home, this is a very big family process. We're in the home, there's parents, there's siblings, sometimes there's other family members as well. So we really try to work with the family, get their personality, see what the child's needs are and their personality as well, and really try to match them the first time really well with their behavior technicians. So a little bit more about Autism Home Support Services and the services we provide. We are in the home. We work in Greeley, Milliken, LaSalle, in Johnstown. On the next page, I can also show you a little bit of a map of where we are. We also have a great center located in Greeley. It's great for little kids. We also have a great teen room as well too, so all people of all ages can feel comfortable. And we also have hybrid, so we can do a little bit of in-home and the rest in center, or vice versa, and really help. That was really great for generalization as well, but also just a great mix of both, if that's what you desire. So definitely lots of options for what kind of therapy and what location we can do it in. Some other things we do have a bilingual English-Spanish intake team. We also have English and Spanish paperwork as well to help those family members. Parent training is included in every program we do, whether you're at the home or we're in the home or at the center. And then we have some great groups too. So groups include our early learners group. Those are for people not quite ready for kindergarten or preschool. They'll do circle time and taking turns, things that you would typically do, but using the foundations of ABA, and the goal is to get them into preschool or kindergarten. It's a great program. Right now with COVID, it looks a little bit different. Usually we would have a lot bigger groups, but we are very COVID safe at our center. So groups are very small now, and we're hoping to get back to at least a little bit of normalcy, hopefully later this year or maybe next year. So we also have preteen groups, and social skills groups are available too, for kids that are doing ABA with us. So this is the address of our center, and I just wanted to show the areas we're kind of serving. So the red area are areas in Weld County. We also serve Larimer County as well too. So we can do in-home ABA in any of those areas that are covered, or you're welcome to come to our center as well too. We have Brian there, who's wonderful, so he will welcome anybody that would like to come to our center. And then just some pictures of our center. It's, like I said, it's pretty new. We just opened in August, so we have our front entrance, and our therapy rooms are all different themes, which is really cute and fun for all the smaller kids. And like I said, we also have a teen room as well. We have a gross motor room with lots of fun things to do. Not pictured are also some really fun bikes we have for kids. And then we also have a really fun art room as well too, for kids to play and do art. So some things not pictured, we have our early learners room that kind of looks more like a classroom. And then our teen room as well, which has more older games and couches to give it more of that older feel. So who do we support? So we actually can work with kids with a lot of different needs. So autism spectrum disorder, ASD, that's what ABA is best known for. It's what's recommended for kids diagnosed with autism. And private insurance, if a family only has private insurance, they have to have an ASD diagnosis in order to do ABA therapy. Thankfully, we also have a wonderful Medicaid program in Colorado, and they open it up to other needs as well. So if a family has Medicaid as primary or secondary insurance, we can work with people diagnosed with ADHD, ODD, global developmental delay, and Down syndrome as well too. It just needs to be recommended as a therapy for that child. In terms of ages we work with 1 through adulthood. So again, we are not a PASA provider, so we can't do the DD waiver, but we can work with people with Medicaid up to age 18. And then private insurance, that's an advantage of private insurance. You usually can go a little bit older, and we've worked with adults and gotten approval all the way up to age 26. And then speaking of insurance, we take Medicaid and most private insurance. I mean, everything from Kaiser, Beacon, Magellan, TRICARE, pretty much all the major insurances, Aetna, Cigna. So you can definitely check with us too to see if your insurance, Humana as well too, United. So I think I covered most of the big ones, but you can always check with us too to see if we're in network with your insurance. Another great thing that we do have a couple of payment plans in place to help families as well, especially those with only private insurance. What we have is we have one that is not income based and can help split payments along a longer period of time, like 6 months if they have a very high out of pocket cost. We also do have an income based one, which is a permanent reduction in their copay or deductible, and it depends on income and then number of people in the household. So if they do have, parents and grandparents living with them, that does all count towards that. And it can be a reduction anywhere between 10% all the way up to 90%. And families can just talk to us about it, and we'll be able to get them set up on that if needed. Languages, Spanish, English, and we do work with kids that are nonverbal and have PECs or AAC devices as well too. And next, I am going to go ahead and let our center manager, Brian, speak about ABA, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Marissa. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here tonight. I'm sure many of you might be having acronym overload, so I kind of want to slow down a little bit and just review kind of ABA and all the different acronyms so far. So ABA, first of all, my name is Brian Cummings, and I am the Board Certified Behavior Analyst, BCBA, so you'll see that term a lot, for the Greeley area and the region supervisor for Larimer County as well. So to start off with, ABA it stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And really our mission is to help kids or adults, like Marissa said, reach their full potential. And a couple of ways we do that is we really want to address socially significant behavior. That's really one of our foundations is working on that socially significant behavior and that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. There's no right or wrong answer to what that socially significant behavior is, right? So that's a major component I want to touch on. It needs to matter to the person, and it needs to matter to the people around them. We talk about our clients, and the client is not just the person who I'm going to be spending that one-on-one time with, or the BT, the behavior technician. The client is the entire family as well. At the same time, with that socially significant behavior, we need to be aware of that person's autonomy. So like it says, skills that matter to the person, and that's going to be one of my of the utmost importance to me if we move forward. With that behavior piece, what that means is we're looking at responses to stimuli, things that someone does that can be observed and recorded. So scratching an arm, being able, brushing teeth, things like that. And then analytic, what we're talking about there is that behaviors serve specific functions. What we're getting at is that everything we do, there's a reason behind it. So all of our kids, there's a reason they might be crying. There's a reason they're engaging vocal stereotypy or physical stereotypy. It's nothing occurs in a vacuum, right? And the way we're approaching that is very analytic in nature. We're going to be looking at things in a scientific approach because ABA is a science, and that's generally how we approach it. We're looking at data to review progress. We're introducing variables, whether that be positive praise or really positive praise. That's going to be our first stop, right? As we're introducing that more and more, we want to see how that changes behavior. Okay, that's one of the big things we're going to focus on. So some of our other areas of focus, Marissa touched on this a little bit: communication, social interactions, independent living skills, behaviors for reduction and behaviors for increase, and then parent training. I'm just going to touch a little bit on each of these real fast. I think most of you, if you're here and you have a child with autism, I could imagine that communication is probably one of the biggest things you struggle with. And that may be kind of the key to helping a lot of our kids, is that if they can get the words out that they need, or use their PECs or use their AAC device, things will definitely change for the better. Imagine going through life not being able to communicate what you wanted, and everyone's just playing a guessing game of charades with you. You get frustrated really quick too. And I think that's where a lot of our kids, that's where that comes in. So that'd be a main focus of a lot of our, especially our early learner programming. Social interactions, definitely a component of our programming, and that's where that applied piece of socially significant. So that needs to be important to the person. I can't make any child want to play with other children, and I'm not going to make them. That's definitely their choice. What we will do is try to show them the benefits of it, but if they don't want to, more power to them. I need those days too, where I need my space, right? Especially those older kiddos, the teenagers, young adults, social interactions. We'll work on that to a certain degree, but it's going to be working on the best way to navigate society, right? Without changing who they are too much, okay? Because that's going to be a major thing, is we want the older kiddos to maintain their autonomy, maintain who they are, but maybe give them some skills to, if they want a job, how can they, acquire those skills to get a job, right? And with the little guys, we're going to work on sharing. We're going to work on taking turns. Again, if that's something they're interested in, but if they're perfectly happy playing with the cars all by themselves, we will ride with that, and then maybe just try to show them some cool stuff along the way. Independent living skills, absolutely really, really important. And this is really a matter of, independent living skills. The way I like to approach this with parents, and when I'm talking to parents about this, is consider this a safety skill. And the more that a child can do on their own, the less intervention, the less intrusion they have by an adult in their life, helping them with things like getting dressed, brushing teeth, washing hands, putting shoes on, all those kind of things. I think everybody grows up and they want to be able to do things on their own, and really, that's kind of the sort of things we'd be working on for that. And it's, like I said, it's a safety skill. The more independent you can do those kind of personal hygiene things, the better off you'll be. And that's something I really try to stress with all my patients. Behaviors. So, we always talk about behaviors as behaviors for reduction, those things like the tantrums, the crying, the screaming, self-injury, things like that. But really, there's a whole nother aspect of behaviors that we need to think about, is we want to increase behaviors, right? So we want to increase those things like, hey, good job taking deep breaths. Oh, good job walking with me. Good job holding my hand. All those kind of things are really important behaviors that can be tracked. And that's really what we want to do. So we want to increase those positive behaviors, because the science of ABA shows us that if we increase those positive behaviors, and we touched a little bit on it, and we'll come back to it, the function, right? If we increase those positive behaviors, hopefully the inappropriate or the negative, the behaviors we don't like so much, will go down, okay? Then parent training. This is a huge piece, and I always talk to all my parents about it. Guess what? Buckle up. Here we go. It's time, okay? And I don't necessarily like the term parent training, because you guys are going to know your kids so much better than I ever could. But really, this is parent education. I want to spend some time with you learning about yourself, learning about your kiddo, and then we're going to work together to come up with strategies for you to make life just a little bit easier, right? Maybe work on things that you don't have to walk on eggshells about every day. I'm sure many of you walk on eggshells with certain things on a day-to-day basis, whether you can turn the hair dryer on, or if you can go a different way home, things like that you maybe just, and we're going to work on strategies for you with that, okay? Try to educate you about autism if that's something that you need education on, but we'll kind of meet you where you're at with parent training. Generalization, Marissa touched on this a little bit, and this is really tied to the parent training aspect, is anything we do and work on in the center or work with your BT in the home, we need to transfer that skill to the parents, because you're ultimately the caregiver for your child long term. So it's great if they have a great, 3-hour session once a day and for 15 hours a week or whatever, but there's a whole lot of extra time the rest of the time that parents need to be there and be able to transfer those skills. So we definitely work hard on that. Once a skill is we're starting to see mastery in one location. I like to call it moving the goalpost on them. We're going to move the goalpost and we're going to make it a little bit trickier. That could mean generalization a lot of way. Let's see if we can do the skill at home. Let's see if we do the skill with mom. All right, now mom's got it. Now we're going to add dad. Okay, now dad's got it. Now we're going to add older sister. Okay, now we did it at home. Now let's do it at grandma's house or whatever that may be. Okay, that's kind of where generalization comes in. All right, basic principles of ABA. So we tend to focus on reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. Those are generally, those are what happens after a behavior occurs, okay? So what we're talking about with each of these are very different, and the language of ABA is different than what you typically hear. We all grew up with punishment, you're grounded or you're losing video games or whatever that may be. And we often think of reinforcement as just, high fives and things like that. And reinforcement absolutely can be high fives. The way we define reinforcement is a stimulus or something that happens after a behavior that's going to increase the behavior in the future. So we can't call it reinforcement. And this is just one of those tricky, picky ABA jargony kind of things, but we don't call it reinforcement unless it's going to change the behavior and increase, our client's behavior of doing something. So, getting a token or a sticker, if it's not changing anything, it's not reinforcement. It's just a sticker out there in the world. No big deal. Okay. Punishment is the opposite of that. So it's a stimulus that's going to happen after a behavior that's going to decrease the future likelihood of it. Now, punishment doesn't have to be grounding. It doesn't have to be a nasty look or a thumbs down or anything like that. A punishment can be, a positive statement, but maybe someone doesn't react well to positive statements. And, you give positive statements and they're like, I would much rather this person not talk to me. I'm not going to do the thing that gets them talking to me anymore, right? That's the way in ABA we think of punishment. Most of the time, we're not going to use a lot of punishment in our programs. We're going to focus really much on that reinforcement and replacing and praising and working on those behaviors to increase. Punishment would only come out in kind of the severe cases of aggression or self-injurious behavior, that kind of thing. And it really kind of depends on the maturity level and the ability level of the client if we're going to work on something like that to reduce behaviors. In kind of a circular way, all of our reinforcement strategies are also punishment strategies because they are, decreasing a behavior, but our focus is more on the increasing of the behavior. That's why the reinforcement works rather than the punishment, because our focus isn't going to be on decreasing, it's going to be replacing. Extinction, this is not the dinosaurs. This is the idea of when a behavior was previously honored or reinforced or served a function, got something met by a person, we're going to stop reinforcing that. We're going to stop providing that, that option basically. So let me give you an example. If every time, you're at Walmart and someone screams and cries and they get a Snickers bar, right? So you reinforce screaming and crying because they get the Snickers bar, okay? To put that in extinction, what that means is screaming and crying is not going to result in a Snickers bar anymore, no matter what happens. That would be putting the screaming and crying on extinction. It doesn't mean we're ignoring the behavior. It doesn't mean we're ignoring the kid, the child. We're not doing any of that. We're just going to say, that's not going to work, bud. Let's try using your words. Oh, use your words. Great job. Now you get a Snickers bar. Okay. That's what extinction is. Extinction and reinforcement are tied very closely together. Okay, and if anyone has any questions about that, I know there's a lot of jargon, so try to help that, be understood. Like I was talking, all behavior has a function, right? That means every time we do something, there's a reason behind it. There's 4 main functions that we kind of focus on in ABA. One is automatic, one is escape, one is denied access, and then the other is attention. So and there's also a lot of splinter functions of behavior, but this isn't a ABA 101 course, so I'm not going to get into all that for you guys. But think about, those four main ones. If we're doing something, it's serving one of those main things: to get attention, to escape. I don't want to do this anymore. Get me out of this location. I don't want to do it. I want something, to get a need met, and then it feels good. It's automatic, right? So scratching an itch, sneezing, those kind of things are automatic behaviors. If you have kids with vocal stereotypy or motor stereotypy, where they may be rocking or they've got hand movements, things like that, that's likely an automatically maintained behavior that feels good, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are all okay. Behaviors can have multiple functions. What this means is that, I could be doing this for attention, and I can also be doing it to get out of things. My wife is a 7th grade teacher in the district here in Greeley, and we talk all the time about kids that act out in her 7th grade class. And then they get sent into the hall, and then every time someone walks by, that kid gets a bunch of attention. What are you doing out here? Da, 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 da. And then every teacher stops and talks to them for 5 minutes, but they're also in the hall not doing their work. And so I was like, could that be serving a function? They're A, getting out of work, good job, and B, they're getting a ton of attention. So that behavior of acting out in class is serving multiple functions. This last bullet point: different behaviors can have the same function. Absolutely. It can mean lots of different things. It can do, you can be doing the same thing to get your needs met in lots of different ways, and that's totally okay. So, running away from something and asking them to move are two different behaviors, but they have the same function of getting the heck out of Dodge, and that's okay. But one's a little bit safer than the other, and that's the kind of example we'd work on, is like, hey, let's ask to leave, let's ask to move, rather than running out of the classroom. Okay. So that's my functions of behavior. Before we can treat any behavior, we need to identify what the function is. Why is it happening? Because otherwise we're just we're taking a shot in the dark. So the way we identify the function of behavior is we're going to look at what's occurring before the behavior happens. Okay, what are conditions that influence or evoke the behavior? Is it a loud environment? Was there a demand being placed of doing schoolwork? Was there a demand to clean your room? Did something land on your arm? I'm trying to touch on all the different functions there. So then we're going to look at the behavior. What happens? Okay, we're going to watch the client and see what they did, how many times they did it. What did it look like when they did it? Were they hitting themselves hard, soft? Was it hard enough to make a sound? Were they running and looking behind them as they go, right? Things like that. And then the consequences. Again, this is similar, another language skill. It's not consequences like you're grounded. It's specifically what happens after the behavior. So we're going to be looking to see, okay, they've done this thing, what happens after? So they've cried and screamed in the grocery store. Do they get the Snickers bar? Oh, okay. The function, the consequence helps us determine the function in a lot of ways, right? So they've cried and screamed, they get the Snickers bar. That's that kiddo's way of asking for a Snickers bar. That functions really well if they know they're going to get it, okay? And this can be naturally occurring or contrived. So contrived means things like tokens, getting the Snickers bar, or it could also mean, you ran away from the classroom. That's a naturally occurring escape. You've escaped your task, okay? And when we determine the function, that's how we're going to address the behavior. So let me come back to my example, and we've got some more examples on here, but the kid who's acting out in class to get out of doing his math work, he's escaping. All right, let's replace that acting out with asking to leave or asking to take a break. That's going to be our way to replace that behavior, but we can't do that until we learn the function. Okay, so decreasing challenging behavior, attention. If the function of the behavior is attention, we're likely going to remove the attention for that behavior. That doesn't mean we're going to stop attending to the client at all. It just means, instead of saying stop crying, stop throwing a temper tantrum, all those kind of things, because a lot of times for a lot of kids, it does not matter if you're reprimanding them for attention. It's just a matter of, hey, someone's paying attention to me. This is awesome. I don't care, right? So instead, we want to I use a lot of metaphors when I speak, so I apologize if I'm overdoing it with them, but I like to think of it as like a bucket. You want to, fill their attention bucket with positive things. Hey, and teach them that they can get attention for doing things like walking with you, holding your hand, Oh, I love your safe body. I love how you shared. I love all this kind of, even the smallest thing, that's one more drop in their attention bucket rather than filling it with, hey, knock that off. No, don't do that. Because a lot of times, doesn't matter. More drops in the bucket, and that's what they want. Okay. When escape and avoidance is a function of behavior, sometimes when we decrease that, usually if it's an inappropriate way of escape, we're still going to follow through on the presented task. So what that means is, okay, just because you ran away or you crumpled up the piece of paper, I'm just going to print a new one, or I'm going to put the work on a whiteboard and you can't crumple it up, or whatever that may be. We're going to follow through. But as soon as you use your functional communication or your appropriate way to escape, I'm going to honor that, especially at the beginning of teaching these skills. Because if you're not honoring that quickly and early, why would I keep doing it, right? So make sure you're honoring that language skills. Even sometimes, you have to take in consideration the larger battle. For escape and avoidance, for example, if running away is the major thing that happens when they're trying to get out of doing something, okay, let's work on that. But then we work on asking to be all done or asking for taking a break, but they're screaming it at you, but they're standing there. Still honor that to begin, right? We'll shape up the screaming and yelling at you, but mission one, they're not running away. Good job. Now we've got to work on the screaming and things like that, okay? Access to tangibles. Again, this back to my Snickers bar. Tantrum for the Snickers in the store, things like that. Oh, you can ask using a nice voice. Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, now we can go get a Snickers bar. Great, right? And make sure, the behavior that you want to see is observed before we start doing that, okay? Sensory automatic reinforcement. This is a tricky one, and it really depends on how dangerous it may be, or you really don't want to redirect or block any sensory or automatic reinforcement just because it's inconvenient. Because if your child is engaging in the sensory behavior or an automatically reinforced behavior, they're getting some input that they're not able to get otherwise. So be really careful about blocking those kind of things, unless it's dangerous. Does that really make sense? Like, running in circles in the house is inconvenient and annoying, but it's better than running in circles outside where they could run into the street, right? Rocking or vocal stereotypy, things like that. It's annoying and it's kind of loud, but they're getting that input. They're getting something out of that. So just be really careful before we block that sensory seeking behavior. Just because children with autism, their minds, they work just a little bit different, and we don't want to take that away, and we don't want to prevent them from getting their needs met in that way. Okay. So I touched a lot about this when we were talking about decreasing behaviors. And so if we're increasing behaviors, this is what it's going to look like. So like if we're increasing behaviors for attention, we're going to talk about how do you tap someone on the shoulder? How do you say, hey, mom? How do you say things like that rather than, coming up and screaming in mom's face or whatever it may be. I talked about escape, asking to take a break. I need some space. Can I go to my room, right? Let me put my head down. Can I put headphones on? Something like that, right? And that sort of thing. Access to tangibles, teaching waiting, other coping skills, asking for things in, I don't want to say a nice way because that's a little bit subjective, but rather than screaming or stealing something, use your words. I'm going to likely honor it. And then, like it says, we'll also have to eventually, we'll have to work on, delayed gratification. We'll have to work on accepting no, because you can say yes to a lot of things, but eventually, someone's going to come up and say, can I have a unicorn? And then you're like, Brian, what the heck? You said honor everything. And now they're asking for a unicorn. What am I supposed to do? Right? So we'll cross that bridge, but as long as you can honor it and you're not getting that inappropriate behavior, I would encourage you to honor that language. Sensory automatic, like I said, if it's dangerous, we're going to look for ways to meet that sensory need in other safer ways and try to replace that behavior. So here's some examples of that. So here's what happened. When asked to check her schedule, Cassie runs out of the room. Staff runs after her. That can be an attention maintained behavior because she's got everyone chasing her, especially if they're doing the looking behind you, are you coming after me kind of thing. Usually that's a pretty good sign that it's attention maintained behavior. Okay, the next activity is delayed, or they never had to finish the activity in the classroom. That's escape, right? Ask her, she runs out of the classroom, she runs down the hill, runs down the hall. That could be automatic sensory feedback. She just needs to move. And that'd be something, okay, that's not a safe choice, but maybe let's find Cassie a time where she can get what we would call like non-contingent access to running. All right, every hour, great, you get a running break. Let's go to the gym, do sprints. Congratulations, you can do sprints. I would die. So when asked to leave a preferred activity, Abe grabs the arm of a staff member and bites his arm. So this is a transition. I'm sure this is a common one. So, now Abe is getting a lot of attention because everyone has flocked to the bitten staff member and they're telling Abe to stop it, let go, don't do that. He's getting a lot of attention. Staff person lets Abe return to the activity. Abe has learned that biting is the best way to ask to get back on the PlayStation. Okay. Again, staff person lets Abe return to the activity. Now Abe has learned this is the best way to not do the next thing on his activity too. Okay. I'm not going to go through the next one. We can move on because I think we've covered this pretty well. One of the big things that ABA, and we definitely try to do here at Autism Home Support Services, is we want to collaborate with all the other services that your child is getting. So we try to collaborate with speech and language. We want to participate with occupational therapy and physical therapy because frankly, they're the experts on these things and we're not. So my approach, and I can tell you the approach that we'll take at the Greeley Center, will be whatever speech, language, occupational PT goals are in place, we're going to follow their lead on that. If they recommend PECS, if they recommend an AAC, sign language, things like that, we're going to support their goals. And our mission is going to be to try to help the child achieve the behavior that makes them most successful with that. So if it's PECS or if it's an AAC device, we're going to work on carrying your PECS book, carrying your AAC device. When you're requesting something, we're going to use it. That's the replacement behavior, those sort of things. Occupational therapy, if there's a certain way we need to put our shoes on or zip our coat, all right, we're going to practice that. And we're going to rely on OT, SLP, PT to really design what that specifically looks like and go from there. Now, if and we'll do our best to collaborate as much as we can. And sometimes it doesn't happen. I'll be perfectly honest with you. We all try to reach out and work together, but it's difficult. We all have a lot of patience and very little time. So we'll do our best. And that's where parents come in. If you as parents know exactly what's going on, you can be our resource. And like, okay, OT says it this way. Great. We're going to do it this way. Okay. A lot of our kids have unique medical needs, and that'll play a significant portion of our determination of behavior and functions. So we're gonna, if we see a kiddo who's really hitting their stomach a lot all of a sudden, we're not gonna really approach that behaviorally right away. We're gonna encourage you to take your son or daughter to the doctor and make sure there's no medical conditions, because that's not something we can treat. You'd be surprised how much, we call them private events, but it's not something that can really be tracked. And if your child, unfortunately, has limited communication skills, they're not able to tell you when something is hurting or bothering them. And if you couldn't tell someone that something is bothering you, you'd probably get pretty upset too. So that'll be a good first step when any new behavior comes out, is like, hey, let's check a medical. Let's make sure everything is going okay. That's a big piece of it. And then mental health professionals, we're also going to coordinate with them with some of those more complex mental health needs. So Marissa mentioned things like ODD, schizophrenia, things like that. We're going to want to coordinate with mental health professional just so we can make sure we're not doing any undue harm, because We get some training in mental health, but really that's not the crux of where our training is in. So we want to make sure we're addressing that appropriately. And same with trauma. A lot of our kids have gone through trauma. And so that's something we need to be aware of too, because certain strategies just aren't effective for kids with trauma. Collaborating with schools is another huge piece, because I know a lot of our kids have difficulty in schools. FYI, the Greeley School District does have a BCBA on staff. So for you advocates out there, if you go to IEP meetings and you have kids with behavior issues, ask about the staff, the district BCBA, if they're able to provide any support. They only have one, but there is someone there. So just be aware of that. That could be a resource for you as well. But we want to consult with the school as much as we can. We have a limited amount of time we can do in the school and what we can do in the school, and that's just the messy nature of funding. But we do want to try and be supportive of the teachers and the student in the school as much as we can. So when we collaborate with these different people, part of that, what we're going to try to do is we can do a little bit of observing and overlapping during session. That's going to be the most difficult piece of collaboration. The biggest piece is going to be, things like sharing progress notes and assessment results and just getting on the phone with everybody. And parents are going to play a huge part in that. If we ask for information and contact information, please, because that'll be the biggest barrier, is getting someone on the phone or getting an answer in email. And like I said, we're going to want to mirror language, material, systems of reinforcement across the settings, right? If at OT they lose everything for the day and we don't, why would they want to go to OT? And that's not fair to OT, okay? We're going to target the same skills across all settings, and we're going to use our unique approaches to get those needs met. The OT and speech and everyone have great resources and great knowledge, and we want to make sure we're relying on that and doing the best to support everybody. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. I'm going to shout out one of our participants. You were my resource to make sure I was making sense. Someone was shaking their head and smiling and nodding a lot. So I want to thank you. I don't want to say anyone's name because I don't want to violate your privacy, but I was definitely looking at you, and I appreciate the nonverbal feedback. It was really helpful to be able to see that. So thank you. If you're interested in enrollment and intake, here's our email address for that, the phone number. We do have bilingual support. And then any other further questions, the ARC has amazing advocates that can be of service to you as well. And I'll let Marissa or Letitia add anything else. Thank you all for listening, and I apologize if I went over time or went too fast, but please, ask questions.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to hand it off to the Arc of Weld County's Executive Director, Larry McDermott, to close us out.
Hi, we want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I think that we started a couple of support groups several years ago, and I think one of the things that was lacking was exactly what Autism Home provides, and we just became aware of them a short while ago. But we feel like it's very important that we partner with a lot of different providers to be able to support the needs of our families. So I just want to thank Marissa and Brian for being able to be here tonight. I want to also welcome the families that are here tonight as well. We realized that we were talking about this just briefly before we signed on to everybody. It's tough for families to be able to understand where to go and how to get support for your child. And you're bombarded with all these tests and all these professionals and all these different systems. And I think what we want to do is we had one of our founders, Margaret Brown. She used to say she wants us to be the kind of agency at the Arc of Weld County where we're never too busy to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. And I think we really try to model that behavior. We also want to invite family, because we see ourselves as kind of helping to navigate systems. And we feel like it's very important that a family feels comfortable with the people that they're working with. In this case, our advocates, myself. So we invite you to, if it's something that you're needing, come visit with us. You know, there's no requirement that if you talk to us, then you have to sign your life away to us. We really feel like we're there to support you, and we want to do everything in our power to try to lessen the burden on you. And I think that we hope to do more of these trainings with other provider agencies. We've got some plans in place. We need you guys to really let us know what you like about what we do, maybe what you dislike, so we can improve on it. But we would also encourage you to share with your networks, because that sometimes is the best. We can go out and advertise and do all these fancy promotions and stuff, but I think the most powerful thing is the word of mouth by parents. If you feel like a service is valuable, then the people that you talk to most likely are going to look into that, you know. So we really want to build relationships. We want you to trust us. We really are here we're a grassroots organization. The ARC has been around since the late 1800s. So we were started by moms, a group of moms is who started us, you know. So all the guys that are working for us, we should be thankful to all the women that went before us, because they've done an amazing job. And we have a beautiful system. We have a state chapter, as well as the Arc of US. If you ever want to do some late night reading, just Google those, Arc of Colorado, Arc of US. There's amazing resources out there, some of which we employ. But we just really want to welcome you. Hope you felt comfortable here tonight. Again, thank you to Marissa and Brian. You know, this is really what we want to do more of. And someday we might get back into butts in the seats, but we feel like this kind of feels good because it's easier. You know, you can be kind of like having one ear listening to your child in the next room and still being able. And the other thing, you can look at the recording that we have tonight as well. So we're here for you. We really want to be more, and we can't deny the fact that we are funded by the thrift store. So if you do see the trucks running around, give to the thrift store, because they help us. But anyway, I just want to welcome all the parents, family members that were here tonight. I do want to plug the film festival. If you got an hour to spare on the 30th, please check us out. It is really, we've been doing it for about 10 years. It's fun. It really is one of those things that tries to, everybody likes to go to the movies. They like to do Netflix, whatever. We think media, social media is very an important way to spread the word about people with disabilities, or people first. And they're not their diagnosis. They're not their label. So we hope to, if you have a hankering to go to this, share it with your families and your networks. But I'll go ahead and sign off now. But thank you for all those that were here tonight. We look forward to meeting you. Really am so pleased to have Marissa and Brian in our area, because I think it's going to be an incredible relationship for all the families. Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a great evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice